spicy.
Steven is so strange. He looks kind of Amish. Just
Thank
for
you.
today.
That's every day, brother.
It's actually every day.
What is up, everybody? We're back after
Yay.
a brief hiatus.
Hiatus?
Sabbatical.
Hey.
Hiatus. Yes, the gents and I were
Shabbat.
at various camps, Jesus camps. River and I were away at Beulah Beach for a week for junior camp, and we had about 30 kids accept Christ. Woot woot. And then all three of us were actually just at soccer camp and for another week, and about 30 kids accepted Christ. Woot woot. So
Woot,
it is
woot.
not. Our efforts are not in vain. We thank you for sticking around, maybe listening to an old episode or two.
We hope.
We actually put a really cool thing out. It's called Cleo's Battle with Cancer, and it's about my grandma who got melanoma skin cancer and how she fought through that. And she was a beast and an amazing evangelist and proclaiming the gospel. And she fought and fought and fought through that. But she never let it get her down. She always just used it to proclaim the name of Christ. So we encourage you to check that out. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Instagram.
All that fun
I want to make a
stuff.
quick announcement.
All that fun stuff. River's making an announcement.
So over the next week or two, I'm going to be sending out questions on the Instagram regarding upcoming podcasts and questions you may have about just different topics. And I want to hear all your questions. But don't forget to send in your generic, personal question that you have as
Not
well.
generic.
Not generic. That's the
Not
wrong
generic.
Your
word.
general
That's
questions.
General. That was the
General
word.
inquiries.
I knew it was a G question.
It's
Anyway.
a G question.
Great
But I
question.
also have these ones that I
Grand
want to kind of go over and just see what your guys' thoughts are, and what questions you have. And that's
Heck yeah.
kind of all I've got.
Hype.
Sweet. So, check all that stuff out. And also our merchandise.
Merch.
Look at Steve. Steve flex it.
Hello.
This
I
is
have
off.
it.
Steve is wearing the Comfort Colors, the
is
most
so
beautifully
nice.
soft T-shirt.
It's so nice,
with
dude.
That beautiful logo.
And if you
A
purchase
little wrinkled. Don't mind it. It's fine.
If you purchase this soft
Just
shirt,
casually.
you get the stickiest sticker around. The Without
For
Apology
the
sticker.
softest shirt and the stickiest sticker
You must
that has
order it.
ever lived.
Without Apology.
You must
sticker.
order it,
apology.
guys. You have
You
to.
must. You really must.
Really must.
It really is a steal. There's hoodies, there's crew necks, there's
Oh, yeah.
shirts,
That's a
there's
lot.
socks, there's everything. Embroidered, printed, you name it.
It's
you,
just a lot.
You name it.
We're
If you think like, yo, can I get a Without Apology like Speedo? Sure.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We'll work on that.
We'll see.
We'll see what we can do.
Stay tuned.
But that is how we get our revenue.
Steven will be modeling that Speedo.
Steve will be modeling
I
everything.
apparently will be modeling the Speedo and get ready for that picture.
But if you are just really trying to help us finance our production over here, buy our merchandise. We do take donations. I love Chipotle. It's
Huh?
kinda-
I like Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
So I don't know what's
Steven,
going on
what
here.
do you like?
I don't
Nothing.
know.
He likes
Steven
I
likes
like
Olive
nothing.
Garden.
Yeah,
I
so
actually love Five Guys. No lie.
Five Guys
Big
is good.
Five Guys guy.
Five Guys is good.
Big Five Guys guy.
If you're just looking to send some love financially,
Financially.
we are so down for that. We don't make profit or anything like that. Like we're just trying to keep the lights on, keep our average like 90 people listening, and just keep this production rolling because
Yes, sir.
good things are happening. God's got his hand over this, and we're just gonna keep on rolling. So
Absolutely.
Yes,
we
sir.
had before our brief hiatus, we had our main man River Danger Harder. He shared his personal testimony, which is super cool. You should definitely check that out. And now it's time for our second main man, Mr. Steven, the bearded one, Gamauf.
The Amish-looking one.
Yeah.
Gamauf.
He's gonna share.
one-
I've
should
rocked.
shave
I rocked the
everything except
Amish
his
look.
mustache.
I'm not shaving everything except for my mustache.
So I'm gonna eat a muffin
while I give my
while
testimony.
Steven gives his testimony.
Exactly.
I really love kind of how River told his story last week. I think it was really, really awesome. I always love telling testimonies. Testimonies, they're the one thing that you can never deny because it's life change. And so whenever I go around, I'm able to tell this. It's always really, really encouraging because everyone's always like, well, yeah, that's fine. I'll argue everything else. But I guess I really can't argue the fact that you went through this. I'm like, yeah, that's facts. So testimonies are always really, really cool to give. But so I grew up in a household of 4. So it was me, my sister, Emily, who's 8 years older than me, and my 2 parents. It was not a Christian home. So I did not have any sort of biblical background in anything. I actually only read a single story out of a children's Bible, and it was the story of Noah and the Ark. And the only reason why was because I really, really loved the pictures in my children's book that show Noah building this ark. It was like this really, really old dude, and he looked so old. And they depicted him with this wooden hammer and metal nails, and just smacking this boat over and over again randomly. It was so funny.
Dude, can I say something that's totally off topic?
Dude, I really want
I'm
it.
so interrupting you.
It's fine.
I think it's so funny, our depictions of Noah in the
Oh,
ark.
oh yeah.
It's oh look, there's rainbows and there's animals.
Yes.
And there's blood filled the waters, and there's bodies floating everywhere. And they were stuck on an ark for 40 days and 40 nights.
Casually.
Can you imagine?
And it was all rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah, dude, the ark itself and my children's
And
Bible
a
and
hammer.
everything. Dude, yeah.
And the
oh, yeah.
Home Depot hammer.
Oh, yeah, that Home Depot
has
hammer.
For some reason.
Some high quality stuff. There's ladders and everything in my
His
children's
beard
Bible
is
too.
perfectly
Oh
trimmed.
yeah, 100%. And everything was just so peachy. But no, that's the only kind of Bible background that I had. And I grew up in a fine family. I super appreciative of my parents. Love them so much. Love my sister to death. Nothing was wrong. In fact, I consider myself pretty lucky. My parents are still together. I have a sister. I've already better than I think half of the world right now.
Yeah.
Half of America,
Half of
at least, I
America.
think, right? Yeah, half of America. So I mean, I've pretty much super blessed already. But yeah, as I kind of grew up in school, if you've never seen me before, I look like a nerd. I act like a nerd. So therefore, I am a nerd.
You know, band kids.
Oh yeah,
This is the
band
But
kid.
he did choir.
Yeah, but I did choir though, so it's
And
fine.
he
I'm not
didn't
the band
even
kid.
do band.
So I'm the choir kid. But no, I grew up in kind of in a nerdy type of personality and stuff like that. And so middle school, I had a few friends here and there. I kind of tried to figure out where my group was, and I really didn't establish a friend group or an identity. And so it was really, really hard for me to kind of find a couple of good friends that I could just kind of hang out with, connect with, and just kind of be friends with in middle school. So it was really, really hard for that, but I did find a couple. And through that whole entire time, really, I never really had bad experiences. I had It was just kind of Middle school, I feel was these 4 years where I kind of remember it. I kind of remember being an idiot, but I kind of remember attempting to be a fitting in idiot. So it was really, really weird. And then high school comes around, and so I move up to wonderful, wonderful big school here at Copley, and
Yeah,
I kind of am trying to figure out what to do with an actual group now, because there's so many different things you can do, and so because there's so many different things you can do, I was well, I can just try so many different things. But for some reason, my mind struck bowling. Haha. I'm so sorry.
really
I'm
good.
so sorry.
My
That was
favorite fact about
that's a
Steven.
terrible pun, by the way. I'm so sorry. If
Oh,
anyone did you just get that pun?
You struck.
Oh no.
Like a strike.
Hey, I
Yes.
almost beat him
So I
one
struck
time.
bowling.
Can you
He
please
did.
spare me from the bowling puns?
And with that, we're done. Thank you so much for watching Without Apology.
that one was a good.
We'll see you guys next week.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
And we're done. And we're done. No, but so I did join the wonderful bowling team. Was the best JV member year one, the
Not
best,
only
hands
were
down.
you on the bowling team, you weren't even varsity.
No. I wasn't even varsity for year
Bowling.
one. For year one, it's okay. We get to the good part after that, but it's fine. But through there, I met
Do you wanna be on
a lot of-
varsity?
Yes, you definitely do.
Do you
you wanna
want to
be-
be that good at bowling?
Do you want to be 16th in the state? Okay, anyway, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Anyway,
Soft
so I went and did the bowling team for a little bit. I played a good amount there for a little bit. I practiced a lot and stuff. But from that, I got a good couple couple of friends from that group who I kind of just was able to connect with and stuff. And they were crazy. They were stupid. They were there just strictly because they wanted to make a complete joke out of bowling, which they did, which was the most hilarious thing I've ever
No
seen in my
respect
life.
for the game.
Anyways, it was Drew Beck. You guys know
Oh,
Drew
I
Beck?
love Drew.
He was on the bowling
Drew Beck
team?
was on JV bowling for a little bit. Yeah,
Right.
it was Drew Beck, a
That's
guy
so
named
funny.
Spencer Heffernan, and a couple of other
I
people.
know him.
It was
I
it
saw
was
him at Nervous Dog.
yes,
What up?
quite a funny time to watch those guys bowl. Half the time I was trying to get on varsity, right? So I was trying to impress my coach, and I was like, "Guys, what are you doing, being idiots, throwing the ball between your legs in the middle of a match? What do you mean? What do you guys mean? You're chucking the ball at as fast as you guys can, or picking up a 6-pound ball? They just went so funny. It was so funny. Anyways, but they were they were older people, and so I found a very common trend that I was getting kind of in the swing of things with. That was not a pun. Don't take it as a pun. No one took it as a pun, but it's okay. I just want to make sure I clear that up right now.
Swing of things.
But from that, I kind of grabbed a couple people who were definitely older than me to kind of just lead me through high school. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was like, all right, kind of teach me the ways. And as natural as older people do, they do this thing called graduating. And because they graduate,
Hopefully.
I mean, we hope.
Ideally.
These guys were at least some stand-up individuals that they could at least graduate high school at Copley. So they did that.
There we go.
That was good. But from that, like I said, I found a trend that I kind of was friends with a lot of different people who were older than me. And so they kept graduating. And so every single year I'd have to like regain new friends because a lot of them would graduate. And so those guys leave. I kind of start to find my place. I was doing choir at the time, 4 years before that, middle school. And so I was already like accustomed to all these wonderful, wonderful things in choir. And so sophomore year, I got into like, if there was like honors choir, I got into honors choir.
Steve.
Yeah. Super official.
So
And not only
cool.
that,
You're
I also
insane.
made
So
I
cool.
also made varsity bowling at that
There
point
it
in time.
is.
So
There it
listen,
is.
listen, we are now varsity bowling and an honors choir. So we have a lot on our plate right now. We have a lot going for us. If that is not the most nerdiest resume you could ever give for a high schooler,
It like
it's up there.
there's like bad stereotypes for like quote unquote band kids
Yeah.
and choir kid. Like
Yeah.
those are some of the coolest people I know. But like to be honest,
Dude.
like Steve fits the bill.
Dude, I do. I fit everything. I'm the skinniest guy ever. I'm a tall, skinny, like lanky guy. I have no muscle.
The glasses.
I'm in choir. I have glasses. My haircut
haircut?
was even worse than now somehow. All right, that
No
was
beard.
a thing.
No beard either.
No beard. So it was baby face Amish bowl cut, and it was quite intense. So I definitely fit the wonderful, wonderful style of a nerd. But through them, I kind of gained even more friends. Kind of got connected a little bit. I actually decided to go ahead and give him the triple threat for being a nerd, and I went and joined the theater program for the drama club. So if I have not made
have
you
a chess team?
we did. I did not join it.
Okay, all right.
But I am nuts
I
at
was
chess.
on the
Do-
chess
do
team.
But I
not-
am nuts at
But I
chess.
am nuts at chess, so don't face me in chess. Anyway,
I beat
anyway,
Steve. He's not
very humble about it too, if you can't tell. So I was in my first musical. I got a supporting lead, which is like right underneath the main lead. So it was very, very hype for my first musical. I did not expect to get that.
Go on.
But from all these different groups, I kind of formed, once again, another group of senior friends. And this time it was extremely, extremely closer than my last group because they were not only in theater, not only were they also in choir, but some of them were just like actually cool individuals that wanted to hang out outside of these wonderful, wonderful things. And so because of that, I finally got to experience like what it meant to literally be in high school and just enjoy a friend group, enjoy people to hang out with, to be around, to actually kind of share life with a little bit. But of course, those people, as they have to, graduate and leave. And so then I'm kind of stuck junior year. I have finally established a couple people. And this keeps on happening over and over again. But junior year was a little bit more rough because at this point in time, you're there for 3 years. You kind of know what you're doing. And those friend groups are now like the people who have stayed there for 3 years are now my friends. Like they are my friends' friends. So they're in it to win it here. They're like sticking with me through this. And so I was like, this is great. This is amazing. And so everything goes out just the way you think. Steven is insane at bowling. He's insane at choir. And he's insane at theater productions this year.
So humble.
So, yeah, really, really humble about it. No, I'm kidding. But I got a lot of different new friends from that, old friends return and stuff like that. But this point in time, it was really, really awesome. I found a great group of theater friends to hang out with. They threw me a surprise party and everything. It was so sick.
Aw.
Threw me a surprise birthday party. It was so awesome. Like I felt so close to these guys. We did like everything during the summer. We were going places with just like we did like these like mock dinners. Have you guys ever done like a mystery, like what do they call those? Like a like a murder mystery
No, you
dinner.
did not.
We did. We went to like do a murder
Why
mystery
didn't
That
dinner and
sounds
stuff.
hype.
Dude,
Why
it's
don't we ever
so
do that?
sick. It was so sick and everything. We did like all these different things together. And we were hanging out at like each other's houses
kinda
all the
sweet.
time. Oh, it was so sick. And I like truly felt like this is the one year that when these guys left me, like I already knew it was gonna happen. I already knew that over and over again I was gonna have to deal with this like graduation thing with friends. But I knew I prepared for it this year, I thought. And like as it started to come up, like I really started to feel like the emotional wear and tear of this just repetitively happening over and over again. And because of that, like I knew that 100% I was a nerd, right? And so finding friends was already like either they're nerds, which I'm gonna be honest with you, this is a spoiler alert. If you're a nerd and you don't want to embrace the fact you're a nerd, you hate being friends with other nerds. Like you just hate it.
Define nerd.
So like I'm talking like the people who are legitimate band geeks, or like the people who are legitimate
Bro,
choir nerds,
I knew those people.
or the people on the chess club in certain situations. But no, I'm kidding. No,
This is
but no, I am
friendly fire.
this is friendly fire here a little bit, but no, I will say though that like I did not want to be who I was. Like my identity was not who I wanted it to be. I wanted it to change so badly. Where I was at in high school was just like man, I thought high school was supposed to be always fun. I thought you're supposed to be out doing all these different things, enjoying life, like really celebrating the fact that you are starting to become an adult and like you're able to make your own decisions and stuff. But it really just felt like there was this wall that kept stopping me, and it was the fact that I was a nerd, the fact that I was being super, super like involved in all these different nerdy things. And so because of that wall, I definitely felt, like I said, the emotional wear and tear of it. But that mixed with my friends leaving and everything just kind of left me in this massive pit. And at this point in time, my parents and I, we made an agreement. We said, as long as you're doing a bunch of stuff at school, as long as you're being really involved in different stuff at school, you don't have to get a job while you're in school at high school, which I thought, by the way, the like most luckiest thing in the whole entire world if you can get one. Like that right there, the fact I did not have to have a 9 to 5 that I had to worry about, or in this case, like a 5 to 10 after school that I had to worry about, so amazing. But they had realized, they were like, hey, like my son is also a nerd and also should probably go out and figure out how to do things in life. And so they were like,
Even your parents.
yeah, they were like, actually, they didn't actually think that, but I'm kind of convinced that they actually thought that. And it was all in a loving way, but I also am like, okay, I need to get a job. So I want to have my own money and stuff. But I also was very, very torn because at this point I had fallen in love with like all these different things at school with these groups. I was like, man, I'm already kind of in big depresso mode because all my friends are leaving and I'm like a nerd. So I'm like, I don't want to do this too. But they pile onto me. They're like, I'm going to take away this kind of thing that we've established. So I actually want you to go get a job. And like, you need to be looking for a job right now. And I said, okay, that's fine. Like I'll look for a job. Fully got like a couple interviews nailed and was just like at the end of them, I was like, this is not what I want to do. Like I definitely do not want to do a job while doing all this. So I was like, I'm not doing this.
Like
and because of that,
and then you run out.
because of that, like my parents, they had kind of, they had kind of started to get to this point where they were really, really getting angry about this. And this was like the first point of tension that I think I've ever had with my parents was over this. Like I really was blessed growing up. Yeah. I really did not have many points of tension other than the fact that like I had to go get a job. And so this was the first time that I actually genuinely like thoroughly did not appreciate what my parents were doing right now in this situation. And so all this kind of piled on. And eventually like I was just sitting there and I was so down on myself. I was thinking about like, well, like if this is what my life is in front of me, like this isn't a life that I want to go on doing. And so I was trying to change things about myself. I was kind of like trying to do like an edit to my personality. And I was just trying to do all these different things to change. And it was the most wackiest thing. Like for a period of 3 months, I was just like doing all sorts of different things, trying to make myself not a nerd. None of it worked. Like zero of it worked. But it was just over the summer of my junior year when all these great things were happening. I was hanging out with this friend group and everything. I was trying to change my personality. And so just a big mix up of like, I have no clue who I am. I have no clue who I'm like trying to impress. I don't even know at this point. I just want to get out of where my life is at right now. And so from all these different things, like I found myself getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually I was like, all right, I don't really know like what I'm doing and stuff. Maybe I should like talk to people. And some people from my friend group, they were able to like connect me with a couple people. And I found out that pretty much if I went to like an official place, like I would pretty much have mild to like intermediate or medium, whatever they'd say, depression at that point. Like it was pretty significant. And so I don't want to say it was like a family friend, but it kind of was like a family friend that I went to. And I took like a couple tests and stuff like that gave a couple answers to some questions that he asked me. And very unofficial, but it was very much like, yeah, you definitely have mild to intermediate depression. And I told myself like, well, this kind of sucks. And he was like, I could give you some stuff to help it and everything like that. But I was like, no, like I don't want to go through this and stuff like that. I don't want to deal with this. And so I kind of thought that I'd just get better by myself. But I kept getting more and more down on myself. And eventually I reached a point where I was just kind of sitting in my room and I started to have like my first thoughts of like, okay, so what if I did leave the world? Like what would happen? What if I did actually not exist? Like the thoughts of like who would actually come to your funeral, all these different things came into my head. And I was really, really torn up by this. And I was at least aware enough of my situation to know that when you start to think these things, it's not good and something has to change.
Right.
And so kind of open up to my friend group about it and stuff like that. And there's only so much a human can do, I think, to help like you in this situation. Like they can only help you so much before they're going to fail you. They can't be perfect. And so even my friend group fails me at certain points where like, I'm expecting them to literally be coming alongside of me every single time that I need them. Like I'm like asking for pity points at this point. I'm like, man, don't you just want to like hang out with me? Don't you just want to like be friends with me? Is what it feels like. In reality, they're doing the best they can and they're doing everything that they can, but it's just not enough. So I keep on going and going and going. And there came a night where I was like sitting in my room and I said, like, I fully know where like things that I could do to make myself not be on this earth anymore very easily. I know where everything's at. I know exactly how I could do it right now. I know I could write a note. I know everything could be great and I'd be fine. I would be leaving this earth. Everything would be so much better than this right now. And I kind of remember like going through that. And once again, like I was aware enough to know that I shouldn't do it. But like that was a big red flag for me. That was like you really need to seek some help from this. Like this is really, really bad. And so actually one of my friends, it was either the same night or the night after that. She texted me. Her name is Reese, and she texted me on Snapchat actually. And she had been knowing what I was going through because of that friend group that I was a part of and I was hanging out with. She had kind of known what I was going through, and she was like, she's like, hey, I'm here for you. Like if you need anything like that, like it's totally fine. But just so you know, I'm praying for you. And at that point in time, I knew that Reese was like a Christian. She went to like Grace and stuff like that and everything. Like, okay, great. Like she's like this cool person. She's very personable and stuff like that when I met her in theater and in all this different stuff. And I told her over that Snapchat, it's like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. Like prayer doesn't mean anything for me right now. Like I need so much more than that. And kind of like what came from that afterwards was a massive discussion. It was like an hour-long conversation that we have. I'll never forget it on Snapchat about like what God can do for me and what that looks like for me in my situation right now. And I had gone from the guy who legitimately would have said, like, there's no way that God can be on this earth because he hasn't helped me. Because this is something that I'm still going through. Why hasn't he changed it? Like I had been before, I've been like, yeah, you know what, God, if you're out there, like show me a sign. Completely selfishly, but like, you know, I need something right now. Like nothing bad's going to happen if you don't. But like you should if you are here for me. Like nothing is going to change if you do or you don't. I just want to see. And kind of what came from that was this conversation with Reese changed that perspective completely into like, okay, maybe God does exist. Maybe he can help me, but I still think I'm too far off. I still think I can't be helped. I still think that I can't go through this.
Right.
And so a couple weeks passed and she's like, hey, you should come to church with me. Like I really, really think that after our conversation, you should come to church with me. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, no problem. And I came up with like 3 separate weeks. I came up with the most like crappy excuses in the world. Like one was that my mom won't let me. The other one was that I had to clean my room. And the third one was probably like my mom wouldn't let me because I had to clean my room. Like it was legitimately like terrible, terrible excuses. I blew her off like 3 weeks in a row.
Gotta walk my fish.
Yeah, I was like, this. Like, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And then actually one of my other friends who I had known just from growing up with my friend group that I did those couple of friends, he was actually one of those couple of friends. And he had texted me and said, hey, one of our good friends I knew from theater too, Jordan Burton, is getting baptized at this church.
Yeah.
The man.
And I was like, okay, like I'll go strictly because I know that Jordan is a good friend of mine and a good friend of his, and I just want to be there for Jordan during this time. Baptism, for some reason, is a big thing. I was like, in my head, I was like, for some reason, it's a big thing. Like, seems like something people do like every so often. So I'm like, yeah, we'll go for it. Why not? And so I show up at the wonderful church that we're sitting at right now recording this podcast, freaking out, like shaking and shaking and like quivering, by the way, because I grew up with the intention completely that church looks exactly like a sit down, stand up type of deal. Say a bunch of different specific prayers and words and like sing a bunch of hymns. And I walk in and there's like crowds of people talking and they seem very overjoyed to be at church. And I'm like, what the heck is this?
I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah. And so I see a couple people that I know. And like the weird thing is that, so the weird thing about Copley is that there was a very, very good group of people that went to Grace at Copley. Like there was a good chunk of people and they were very well known. So like you see these people and everyone's looking at you like, what the heck are you doing here? Like I've never seen you here before. Like, what are you doing here? And I kind of am walking alongside my friend, like completely being like pulled against my will into this church at this point. I want to leave so bad. Walk into the main auditorium. We sit down over to the left a bit, like over in like the back left, so no one can see me. And I was like, we're sitting back here. And he's like, okay, that's fine, like no problem. And so everything starts. Like the worship is completely different than anything that I've ever seen in my whole entire life before. It's loud. There's a guitar and drums, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is crazy. All right. So I'm freaking out. My friend's just kind of like vibing. He's just like chilling and stuff. I was like, okay, this is crazy. And then it was Ryan that came out, Pastor Ryan. He was a pastor that used to teach here. He actually is over, I think, at Akron East, right? Akron East, yeah.
Baller.
And he comes out and he starts to explain what this baptism thing is. And I'm like, okay, this is sick. Like, you know, I'm glad that he's explaining what baptism is. I was like, this guy looks kind of cool. He's bald. He kind of is, you know, got some different stuff going on. I was like, okay, he seems like he knows what he's talking about. And he explains kind of like what's about to happen. And then Jordan's testimony comes up on the screen. And so here at the church, if you get baptized during a service, it's really, really cool. You get like your video kind of testimony played a little bit. And it was like the short 2-minute thing, but it described like he had gone through like a loss of a family member. And what that looks like in his life. And he went through a lot of the similar stuff that I did with like how he's feeling, how he's processing these emotions. And he had come to this realization that God actually is someone there that's there for him. And I kind of sat there and I was like, wow, he went through a lot of the same stuff that I am. I actually went through more extreme stuff than I did. I'm just worried about some pesky friends and like fitting in. He went through loss of like a family member.
Yeah.
And he's still kicking and he's still going and he's still seriously in love with this guy named God. And I was like, maybe, just maybe, that could work for me. And at this, like at this point, there comes a point I think in everyone's life that kind of goes through this type of stuff where they have an ultimatum. They have a point in their road of life where they're like, okay, either this works for me, like this God thing works for me, or this one outside source works for me, or it's done. Like we're seriously exhausting all options at this point. And so I was like, okay, well, if I really am at this point, then I have to give everything to this. Because if I don't give everything to God, then something is just going to be weird. Maybe he's going to not appreciate me. Maybe he's not going to see me in a good light. Like I have to give everything. Really, really weird way to look at it, but it worked. And so I was sitting there in the middle of this service, and I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to what this man has to say legitimately. And I'm really going to hear what he has to say in this sermon. So Jeff comes out on stage. Big Jeff comes out. He's in the very, very last... He's in the last message of a series that they were in, The Most Interesting Man in the World. And it was extremely, extremely good series. I literally went back and watched all of it. But I remember this one message, and I always like look back at this one message just for, I don't know, for nostalgia. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. But I legitimately felt that he was talking every single point right into my heart, into my face. Like for me, if I was the only person in that auditorium, he would have given it the exact same way. And I was sitting there, and I was like, dude, this like hurts, but at the same time, he broke everything down of all these struggles and he built it all back up with this foundation of Jesus. And like that was what Paul went across the whole entire world and preached. Yeah. And I was like, dang, that legitimately is my situation right now. And I just remember sitting there and I was completely going through a moment where I was like, this is crazy. I really do think this could be something that I'm interested in and pursuing. And then they come out. The band comes out after Jeff is done praying and everything. I remember kind of like praying my first prayer. Like I didn't really know what to do, so I was like, guy, I mean, if you're out there, like that's great. I think I kind of feel like this is what people were saying. They like feel God. Like I kind of feel that right now. I don't know, something like that. We'll see how it goes. Amen. Great, cool. Band comes down stage. Start to play Reckless Love. And great song for someone who legitimately has never heard the gospel. They just heard it for the first time. I remember hearing like the words like, there's no shadow you won't light up and mountain you won't climb up coming after me. And I was like, bro, this guy's really committed. I was like, God is really committed right now to do this. Like, if he's really going to sit there and right now it feels like complete darkness. If he's going to be the one thing to light this up, I was like, that's commitment.
Right.
That's insane. And to me, that's mind-blowing because nothing else has been able to light up this darkness so far. Nothing. Zero things. And so I was like, okay, this really hitting. Okay. And then it kept going, and it was like this reckless love, not in a way that like doesn't make any sense, but like he's going to do anything for you. Yeah. Anything. I remember just sitting there, and I was like, this is crazy. And I looked over at a good friend of ours, Chuck Wominski. I knew who Chuck was. Dude, I know who Chuck was from school, but I didn't like know him. He's been on the podcast, yes. So you should definitely check out that episode. But he was like a row and all the way to the right of us. I remember, he was worshiping, so he was lifting up his hands and stuff like that. And I was like, I remember feeling something on the inside, like I wish like I could do what you're doing, but I just don't have the guts to do it right now. Like I feel what you're feeling, like this like insane energy of like this is something that I'm really, really happy that I'm experiencing right now. Like, I want to do what you're doing, but I'm too scared to do it right now. I'm too of myself still to do it right now. And I left, and we went out with Jordan for lunch afterwards to Olive Garden. And, oh, my gosh, I was just like, dude, like, that seriously meant so much to me. Like, I want you to know, like, this whole entire day right now has been insane and incredible. He's like, you should come back next week. And I was like, okay. And next thing I know, like, a month later, I'm talking with somebody, one of my good friends today, and one of my good mentors, Josh Taylor, JT, out in the lobby about about like where I was at, what I wanted to do. And by this point in time, I had finally realized that like God at least was there for me, and he loves me where I'm at. And I know that I suck, but like even though that I suck, like he's still gonna love me. And that's about all that I knew at that point. But I told him that, and he was like, "Wait, you understand that right now? Like normally the people who I meet up with have like all these insanely deep questions about like who this Jesus guy is and who God is for them." And I'm like, "No, like I believe this. Like I've 100% experienced this." And like I understand now what it feels like to like be loved by somebody more than anybody else. And he's like, "Bro," he's like, "Okay." He said, "Have you ever been baptized before?" And I was like, "I mean, when I was a baby, I think, yeah, but it was mainly just to like probably get into the church more than anything else." And he's like, "I think you should go to this class." And like next thing I know, like I'm going to this class, and like I'm getting ready to be baptized. And I remember saying like, "Hey, I want to make sure that I get like baptized the same way that Jordan did, just for the selfish reasons, completely for like I want
Just
this to be the exact same way." But I was like, I want to do it the same way that he did because it impacted me. So this was the unselfish part of this whole entire reasoning. But like that video and that whole entire just series of events affected me so much, like I might affect somebody else that way. And I was like, I'm gonna go do the same exact way because it might just replicate it.
Right.
And like, dude, the stuff that came from that, like, I'll never forget. Like, I went up there, I was freaking out. I got baptized. My testimony played. I'm pretty sure you guys were there.
I was there.
I think you guys were there. And like, I remember getting, like, everything was great. Like, nothing actually, like, you don't feel any physical change, like, except that you're wet.
I
Like,
was about to
legitimately.
say.
Like, you don't feel anything. But like, but there was like a point in time where I was like, yeah, like, you just went out there and you just basically told the whole entire world that I'm doing this. I'm committing to this. Like, I'm following Jesus. Like, in your heart, you feel like, I just fulfilled that. And like, I've done that, and I'm only living for God now at that point. And like, ever since then, fully been like living my life for God. And of course, like I've had my ups and downs. And of course, like everyone struggles with, in certain parts of their lives, with like that one thing or those two things that kind of, or even heck, those 10 things that like makes you understand that you're still loved by God because he is able to love you through those. And like, it's still completely wiped from depression after that, by the way, after those like events. Wow. Like completely take away.
That's a miracle.
It legitimately was. And like what solidifies that in my heart is that I went back and I talked to that guy afterwards, that a couple of my friends from that friend group pointed me to. And he was like, "Yeah, I don't see anything involving depression anymore inside of you. Like over these 2 months that I haven't seen you, like you have legitimately been completely wiped away from this depression."
Been sorted out.
And I was like, okay, yeah, that's a God thing. Like, there's no way it wasn't. Like, that was 100%. Like, I have no other reason to give at this point. I legitimately can say I did nothing. And just from all these different events, what I've learned so far from living out my life, like for about 3 or 4 years with God, is that I'm still a nerd, but that doesn't define me. No. Like, I'm still totally this guy that loves to be like, I still bowl. Heck yeah, I still bowl.
Yeah, he does.
But like,
beat him.
I have no shame at all.
No way.
And like, you did not, as Cap,
Yes,
by the way. I just want everybody to make sure they know that's Cap. My ego's been hurt. I don't know what to tell you. No, I'm kidding. But like, there's so many people I think out there that are just trying to put on an image, are just trying to like make people think that they are something that they aren't. And what I discovered is that I can try that all I want, but like, none of it ever matches up to like the love that God's gonna give you. Right. None of this putting up, you know, like those 3 months that I tried to basically be everyone else that I am. Like, all I had to do was just be humbled enough by God to say, it doesn't matter what you are. Like, I've already defined what you are, and because of that, like, you literally can't do anything else to like make up for that. Right. And it's not even like a guilt trip way. It's like I just love you that much.
Yeah.
And when I got hit in the face with that, like through a testimony, through a great message, and then through a worship song, it's just like this constant bombardment of it. I was like, yeah, now I get it. There's nothing that I can do that's going to make God all of a sudden, not only God, but others specifically. Like, there's nothing I do that's going to make others love me perfectly. Nothing. And that's what I wanted. That's what I was craving. Perfect love, exactly. Yeah. And no clue it was God until I got hit in the face with it. I was like, okay, fair enough. It is God. There you go.
Facts.
And so, yeah. Big sad boy hours for a little bit, and then we turn into not sad boy hours.
One question.
Hit me with the question.
Steven,
Fuck it.
when did we become friends? Because me and Steven went to the same school.
Yeah.
You're
all right.
fake.
Yeah, I was all right.
I will say this, like,
Our paths never ever crossed. I can't remember
Yeah.
it was like we were aware of each other.
dude, I think River and I were friends at like
Like,
middle school is when we like probably knew of each other.
yeah.
And then like high school, I knew River from like a couple of other friends, really.
Yeah.
And
We were just in each other's lives.
we were just like in each other's life. Well, I think that's how a lot of high school goes, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Like you see these
the-
guys 8 hours a day for 5
Right.
days of the week, possibly more if you do any sort of extracurriculars with them, possibly more.
When
but-
did we become friends?
The day that I came to merge, and I was like, "Who's
I'm
this?
insane.
Who's this big personality? Oh, that's Isaac Bode."
Crap,
And I
man,
was
get
like,
out of here.
"Ah."
You're asking me.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, it was actually because Isaac like came up and he realized like, oh shoot, he's my like literally my age and will be in my life group for like student life groups. I probably should get to know him. And he like came up to me, and Isaac welcomed me very, very well.
I just sensed
there you go.
that he was a bowler.
Yeah, that's
And
exactly
I
what
just
happened.
knew that he wouldn't have friends.
That's exactly what
No,
happened.
I'm just kidding.
That's exactly
Dude.
That's exactly it.
You know what's really funny?
Hmm.
Okay, I have two things. One's a serious thing, one's not. The serious thing is like, I love what you said about your identity in Christ. Because why would you want it anywhere else if that thing is not what gave you purpose, meaning, and direction?
Yeah.
And whatever it is in that's not Christ is going to fail you.
Yeah.
So like, and it's so much easier said than done, but like, why would you want your identity in something else that's not Jesus?
Yeah.
Like something that's going to fail you.
Yeah.
And like, you can check yourself, like, where's your identity? If it were gone tomorrow, would you be okay?
Yeah.
If not, your identity's in that.
There's
Like,
dude.
to whatever degree.
Yes. Well, and also what's really I think it's very fortunate, and I'm so thankful to God that this happened. That like I didn't grow up experiencing God, because what I got to experience was actually not God. And what I got to experience was 17 years without a good love.
Yeah.
And so now I know I'm never running back to that.
Yeah.
Like
'Cause you can compare,
I'm never
right.
like I have a very tangible experience of 17 years without God that I'm convinced is going to shape me for the rest of my life, because I know that I'll never want to run back to that.
Right. Absolutely.
And like for some people, right, they also experience that. But for others, like you guys, which is really like it's a both have like their pros and cons, obviously, of being able to grow up in the church and not growing up in the church. But like I've always said, like the greatest blessing in my life is the fact that I didn't grow up in the church, because I get to always now know what the love of Christ like looks like, and I get to own that solely for myself. Like 100% on my own accord am I doing this for God, right? It's not based upon any other outside source. It's like, yeah, like I fully realize by myself that I suck, and I fully realize by myself that like the love of God is what I was looking for. There was no other outside source. But at the same time, part of me kind of wishes like,
I
man,
mean,
like I wish I grew up in the
If,
kind of
if,
church.
if
the
you
church
grew
I'm
up in
now.
the church, like when you accept God, that's 100% you.
Yeah.
Right? And
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's what you're trying to say. But
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like you grew up in the church, you don't grow up in the church, you grow up in Catholic church, Muslim church, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The beauty of Jesus Christ is that he is all inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter where you're coming from, like you have to make that decision for yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And things can like you not growing up in the church impacted you just as much as me growing up in the church
Exactly.
impacted me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In different ways. For me, it left an overfamiliar taste in my mouth. Like I like knew everything in my head, didn't give a crap about anything
Yeah.
in the world, right? I could give you every answer you wanted to hear just so you would leave me alone. But like never once did I think of it in terms of a relationship. I just thought of it in terms of knowledge.
Yeah.
And like no matter where you're coming from, like it can't be your parents' faith. It
Mm-hmm.
can't be the church you grow up in. It can't be your school. It can't be your boyfriend or girlfriend's faith. Like it
Yeah.
has to be yours or it's nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Own
very,
your faith. Own it.
Yeah,
Own
own your
it.
faith.
Make it yours.
Own your faith. And like, I'll end off
Our
on this with this whole entire wonderful testimony. It might not be wonderful. Who knows? I don't know. I'm
thought it was
biased.
cool.
I'm biased.
I thought
I'm
it was alright.
biased.
It's pretty fun.
It's all right.
But
top 5.
I will say that because of top 5, sick.
Top 5 out of
made
testimonies
it.
shared in this room.
I made it. I made it in the top 5 out of the 2 testimonies we've given so far. Let's go. But no, I think that anyone out there who always says like Like I'm scared to go out and proclaim my faith and like own it.
Yeah.
I will confidently say like I spent 17 years of my life not knowing who Jesus was, and I'm not blaming that on anybody. There's plenty of people who I interacted with that probably attempted to share the love with me, but it was just planting a seed, and I never actually fully understood that or grasped that.
Yeah.
But everyone who did that, up until the point where I did finally get exposed to that 100% through the Holy Spirit, right, and through Him working in me,
Right.
like those seeds definitely planted that and rooted that. If Reese never reached out to me and said, I'm praying for you, if my friend Aaron never actually invited me to come to church, right?
If Jordan didn't get
baptized, if all these separate little things, all these separate seeds, and many people before that too, like in high school and stuff, inviting me to things and telling me things about
even
them.
not Christ-related things, like
Exactly.
people in your life doing stuff.
Like I am now convinced that like I say in my heart, like I will never be scared to tell anybody the gospel, because if someone told me the gospel straight up, that could have been the blossom. That could be the one thing that God is putting in front of me to say like, hey, like this might be the one opportunity that you have to share this with them. And it might be planting a seed, and it might be the one thing that exposes Christ to them. I don't know. But never be scared of it, because like there might be that kid just like me out there who's on the brink.
Right.
And who might legitimately be sitting there in the corner thinking, I don't know if I want to show up tomorrow. Or wake up
I don't know
tomorrow.
if I want to. Right.
Like
Right.
I don't know. And so like I'm never scared to do that. And I encourage you guys to like always remember there is that kid out there.
Yeah.
There in your class, in your job, whatever it is, there is some kid out there that's always in the corner or always silent or always like way too annoying to even deal with sometimes. There is that kid.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to hear about Jesus.
And everyone needs to hear about Jesus, not just that kid, everybody. But like if you are afraid to go tell that kid about Jesus, then first off, it's totally legit, but like own your faith. Completely own it and know that might actually be the thing that saves that kid's life.
Absolutely.
That's why we call it without apology.
Own your faith, love like Jesus, live without apology.
I mean, like,
That's it.
if you're a Christian and you're saying, I'm in on Jesus, you think it's real, you think it happened, this is the most important thing that ever existed and has ever existed, and this is the number one priority in your life forever and ever and ever. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
And it is scary, it's nerve-wracking, but we know that it's not us who saves people, it's the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
But it's our job to talk to people.
Facts.
It's our job to listen. It's our job to be there, to show up. Like, you don't have to save, you don't have to pull a Billy Graham and like tour the world and go a bunch of save thousands of people, but you can talk to the banned bowling kid about Jesus when you can tell that that person is feeling down. Worst case scenario, say no.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, they're saved for all eternity.
Who am I to deny my God an opportunity for the Holy Spirit to work?
Exactly.
Who am I?
Exactly. How much do you gotta hate someone to
Facts.
not tell them about Jesus?
Facts.
All right. That being said, Steve-O, round of snaps for you.
Should I snap for myself?
Well done. Yes, snap for yourself. Well done, sir. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Once again, check us out on all our platforms. DM us any questions that you have.
Yep.
Merch, always check out the merch. We're working on
merch.
some questions. We got some questions, so we're going to be dropping episodes and stuff to help you guys out with that. Go check out Cleo's story, just like Steve's story.
It was
Cleo's,
awesome.
It honestly is like a super cool thing that we're blessed to have in our life. So thank you all so very much. Remember to follow God without apology.